So we're going to be starting off this creative jumpstart of the cougar with eyes and short fur. And the first part is going to be on eyes. So what I've done is a drawing here that sort of is a very rough explanation of an eye. An eyeball is actually a fluid-filled orb, and it's important to remember that. This rounded part here is called the iris. That's the colored part on an eye. And this is the pupil. Now the iris has muscles in it that are used to contract or expand the pupil. In light-colored eyes, you will see them. They're not just straight lines, but they're kind of jaggedy, and if you look at them, you'll see them. Adding those to your painting of a light-colored animal adds a lot of what Bateman calls verisimilitude, or the ring of truth. Looking from the side of the eye, this is the lens, which is completely clear. And actually the iris and the pupil, I've drawn it kind of forward, but it's really flat. The iris and the pupil are on a flat plane. This lens is what a reflection comes on. So back to this, the area around the eye is called the sclera. Now it's usually kind of a whitish here in mammals, and then will tend to turn pink. Our eyes are white all the way around. In predators, this upper part generally has a shadow because there is an eyebrow found in predators, even birds, that help cover the eye and protect the eye. So this area is usually darker. In a predator's eye, you don't usually get a reflection like this particular photograph. In this, the mountain lion is looking up. Here is the shadow from his eyebrow, but you can see a complete rounded reflection. And also the sclera is seen down here, so you can tell the eye is twisted up. But usually, because of this eyebrow, there isn't a very, very intense round shadow on a cougar or other predators. So a cougar is considered a big cat. The big cats are lions, tigers, leopards, that sort of thing. They always have a round eye, a round pupil. That's because they hunt during dusk and dawn and at night. Dusk and dawn hunting is called crepuscular, and night is nocturnal. Our house cats, on the other hand, will have that vertical eye slit. That's because they hunt during the day, during the night, morning and evening, whatever. And they have to be able to close down the eye into a slit if it's very bright, or open it wide if it's at night. But the big cats have a round pupil. So I'm going to show you some skulls here. This is actually a cougar skull. This is an older skull. It's missing a tooth and it's missing its nasal bones, but I wanted you to see the general size of what a cougar is. This is a leopard skull. As you can see, it's about the same size. This happens to be a female. A big male would be bigger. It's a more complete skull. So you can see the nasal bones here, how they're coming down out of the face. And it also, even though it's a leopard, not a cougar, but you can still see how the nose would come off here and where the teeth would be. So it helps you understand, that's why I collect skulls. It helps you to understand exactly the way an animal is shaped. An interesting thing about, I'm going to say all predators, I perhaps am wrong, especially on birds, but you'll notice that this bone does not connect with this bone in predators. Here is an African lion skull. So again, here it is next to a cougar skull. You can see the difference. And you can see how they have a much longer face. But in talking about eyes, we have a fluid-filled orb, which happens to be one of James's golf balls that he sacrificed for me. And it's sitting in the head like this. And of course, there's another one on this side. And the way that the eye works is that these two eyes move the same, and they come out in what's called binocular vision, so that they can focus on their prey. Sorry, I'm trying to do this holding at the same time, but this gives you the general idea. The eyeball can move some in the socket up and down and sideways, so that allows it to focus wherever it's needing to focus. So just as an example, here is a prey skull. This happens to be a dik-dik, which is an African antelope that is teeny tiny. And a prey animal's eyes are at the side of its head, and their pupils are elongated this way so that they can see around them and even above, being able to watch for predators. So again, I'll just hold up the cougar skull real quick, and you see the difference, that the eye of a predator, which includes us, by the way, is in the front part of the head. Many mistakes that I see artists make when they're painting a prey animal, I guess I should hold the dik-dik up, is that they put the eyes opening here as if it was a predator. Actually, from the side, what you're going to see is, like this drawing, more of the lens and less of the eye. Usually the eye is turned some and you can see it, but that gives you the general idea. So I highly recommend that you create a natural history library. And one of the things that you should have in it is a book on animal anatomy. There are quite a few, but this one is my favorite. And James has given you a link that you can follow to Amazon to get the book. It's called An Atlas of Animal Anatomy for Artists. It's an excellent book. So I've marked here, of course, they don't have a cougar, but they do have an African lion. So you can see how the skull fits into the head, as we discussed, and how the African lion's face is much longer than a cougar's. How the eye sits here, just as I explained, and in this you can see the eyebrow, and of course also shows the other muscles. It's absolutely important that you understand how an animal is put together, how the bones are put together, how the muscles are put together, especially in a short-coated animal. You will see them. And you can even tell on a longer coated animal like, say, a grizzly. So I highly recommend this particular book for all of this sort of information to keep in your library. So talking about reflections, the reflection is, as I said, what is happening on this fluid-filled orb. In this photo that I took, that I'm using as my main reference for the painting, move it down here a bit, maybe you can see a little bit better. He was under a piece of wood that came to right about here. So he actually does not have any reflection in his eye. And the light was coming down this way. The way that you know the direction of where the sun is the shadow. We only have one sun in our universe. So we know that the sun is behind the cat and coming this way. Now, when you're looking for secondary reference, if you're looking on the internet or in books, and this happens a lot with birds, you may see two bright white dots. Those are camera-filled flashes, and you can't paint those two white dots because we don't have two suns. So remember that. In this painting, I am going to want to bring the light on the animal in more, which means I'm going to want a bit of reflection. I love this one, but in reality, it isn't seen very often, this much of a reflection. The reflection is basically the sun, but also what it's looking at. So sometimes you can even see, like this one, little lines that may be trees behind it. For my purposes, I have found a photo that basically matches the direction my cat's eye is looking. And you can see the Sclera here. And you can see just a bit of a reflection. I may bring it in a tiny bit more so that you see a bit more. But you have to be very careful because in reality, there isn't much highlight. As you can see, this eyebrow is covering any of the highlight. So, of course, since I'm a wildlife artist, all of my subjects have eyes. So I will be talking about painting eyes to some degree in all of my tutorials. But it just so happens that I wrote this book about 15 years ago called Painting Wolves, Coyotes, and Foxes. A new publisher approached me after this had been out of print for a while, called Echo Point Publishing, and they're redoing it. It will have a new cover and everything and be updated. It should be out by the spring of 2017. But in the book, I actually have a section talking about painting eyes. Now these are for wolves, although I do include a fox, which has a vertical pupil. But it, again, talks about the basics of how to paint an eye. So when the book comes out, you know, you may take a look at it and see how to paint eyes and some other things.